So good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Press Institute of India, let me extend to all of you a very warm welcome. I'm Sashi Nair. I'm particularly delighted to welcome the Honorable Member of Parliament of Sri Lanka, Professor Tissa Vitarana, who's also the leader of the Lanka Samaja Party. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time to be here. It means a lot.
I must thank you very much indeed, because we have already received assistance from you in the course of this year to the tune of about $4 billion at the time when we are really short of dollars.
Yes.
As a result, we were short of oil, gas, medicines, essential food items, and you helped us out at a very critical stage. So I must thank all the people of India and the government of India for their assistance at this time of crisis.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to help. And in fact, that is, one of the reasons we chose that title, which again, emphasizes on reviving India-Sri Lanka ties. So thank you once again. And it's also my pleasure to welcome our two other guests from Sri Lanka, Mr. Ayaturai Santan, who's a bilingual writer, and he's also a Premchand Fellow of the Sahitya Academy of India. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, and we are very happy to have you on board for this program. I also welcome Mr. Niranjan, who's the coordinator of the Jaffna Managers Forum. A pleasure to have you. A warm welcome to all of you from Sri Lanka. And of course, I extend my welcome to our senior journalists, of course, both in Chennai. First, of course, Mr. Satyamurthy, who is now a policy analyst and political commentator. He's been, one of the most prolific columnists, I think. And after, retiring as head of the Chennai branch of the Observer Research Foundation, I think you've become even more prolific. I think you're, churning out, I think, on average, a column a day, which is exceptional. So thank you so much. A pleasure to have you always, Mr. Satyamurthy.
Thank you.
And of course, last but not the least, as they say, my good friend, Mr. Ramakrishnan, of course, a senior journalist. And in fact, it's not just a warm welcome, but also a big thank you, because it was Mr. Ramakrishnan who actually mooted the idea of having such a program. Mr. Ramakrishnan, as all of you may know, is associate editor of The Hindu. And he was recently in Jaffna, if I'm not mistaken, I think mid-December, December 12th, when the air services between Jaffna and Chennai were resumed after years. So he was representing The Hindu there. And I think from his experience from that trip, I think we might have something interesting to learn. And I think it might also provide the conversation some fresh perspective. Some of you might know that Ramakrishna had also served The Hindu as the Sri Lanka and the Maldives correspondent during 2015-16. And he's stayed in touch with the developments in the island country, the island nation for years. His articles have covered the living conditions of those who return to the northern province after living in Tamil Nadu as refugees for years. He has also written a number of articles on hill country Tamils, or Tamils of recent Indian origin, one of the most neglected communities in Sri Lanka. And he continues to write on some of these issues. I won't talk for long. I just would like to mention that the Press Institute of India has been hosting such programs since 2011, if I remember right. So it's been, more than a decade. seminars focused on national security and foreign policy, of course, in our region. And this got a boost when we had associations with the Institute of Contemporary Studies, Bangalore, Mr. P.M. Heblika, who is the managing trustee. I'm happy to see that he is here for this program as well. And in fact, both of us were the ones who initiated this in 2011. And we've had, every year we've conducted programs, and even during COVID years, we had programs or webinars. And thank you, Mr. Hedlicker, also for being here. And of course, we have this association with the China, with the Chennai Center for China Studies, which is headed by Commodore Vasan. And we've been conducting these programs, and you'll be surprised, Honorable Tisavitra, that we've had, programs focused on Sri Lanka at least twice a year. In fact, this is the second time this year we are, having such a program. So that's it then. Over to you, Mr. Ramakrishnan. You can initiate and give us your perspective and moderate the program. Let's look forward to an engaging and, shall I say, productive, session. Over to you.
Thank you, Sashi, for your kind words. Dear friends and colleagues, respected Professor Tisavitra, distinguished guests. Let me begin with a Happy New Year, which will be, in a matter of days. Comments. At the beginning of this year, 2022, no one who knew Sri Lanka would have anticipated, let alone imagined, events that the country witnessed in the course of this year. Fuel shortages triggered a huge uprising, which led to the resignation of Prime Minister and President, the Rajapaksas, in the middle of this year. It also brought to the fore the balance of payments problem. The chain of events, as you are all aware, caught the media attention in a big way worldwide. Even though political events aroused greater curiosity among journalists of this country, the common man in India was concerned about the plight of ordinary people in their neighboring country. The Indian media had, in a sustained manner, highlighted travails of Sri Lankans at the height of shortages. The Indian government had responded to the Sri Lankan crisis by way of a liberal assistance to the tune of $4 billion in a short period of time, I think in a matter of less than 6 months. The government of Tamil Nadu, a southern state which is in close proximity to Sri Lanka geographically, had provided an aid of nearly, in Indian rupees, 12.3 million to the people in distress, regardless of ethnicity, which was in turn facilitated by the government of India. Tons of the number of life-saving drugs and hundreds of tons of milk powder were among those sent by the southern Indian state. It is against this backdrop that the resumption of air services between Jaffna, Palali, and Chennai has assumed significance. If the long pending ferry services between Kankesanturai and Karaikal in the Union Territory of Puducherry take off at the earliest, this will enable greater people-to-people contact between the two countries, which have a long history of relationship. Notwithstanding the baggage of history as a hurdle, I know bitter episodes of the past involving the two countries were recalled earlier this year when the Indian consignments of essential commodities reached Sri Lanka. There is enormous potential for closer ties between India and Sri Lanka on a variety of fronts: education, economic, culture, and sports. Not long ago, in an interview with an Indian TV channel, the present president of Sri Lanka, who was then not in power, Ranil Wickremesinghe, touched upon a less emphasized yet significant aspect of India-Sri Lanka relations: the commonality between Sri Lanka and the southern parts of India. He even said he would easily fit into Chennai or Kerala without a problem, while similarly people in the south can fit in here. In August 2003, while delivering a talk in Chennai, he called for the development of the South India-Sri Lanka sub-region as a single market that would provide more opportunities for the economic growth of both countries, an idea which he reiterated 13 years later. His point was that in 2016, the 5 Indian southern states with a population of 250 million had a combined gross state domestic product of nearly 450 USD, 450 billion USD, with the addition of Sri Lanka's 80 billion GDP. The sub-region would have a nearly 500 billion economy, having an aggregate population of around 270 million. Of course, there will be serious challenges to getting this idea translated into action, but yet it is still worthwhile to pursue. The recent initiative by Sri Lanka's Agriculture Ministry and National Livestock Development Board in reaching out to the National Dairy Development of India and exploring the possibility of reviving an old partnership for scaling up the domestic dairy production should be welcomed. I hope that this time the collaborative project succeeds. School education is one other area where India could make a difference. India can expand its scheme of establishing smart classrooms and modern computer labs to cover all those institutions teaching children of hill country Tamils, the most underprivileged section in Sri Lankan society, as mentioned by Sashi. Indian universities can consider setting up satellite campuses in Sri Lanka. A customized training program can be conceived for the second and third rank employees of the public sector of Sri Lanka. One more round of housing program, this time involving the private sectors of the two countries, can be planned for homeless people across the island nation, including those in the hill country region. The northern and eastern provinces where the Tamil and Muslim ethnic minorities live and which were badly hit by the civil war deserve special attention, as their contribution to Sri Lanka's GDP is hardly 10%. This ought to be improved. The development of the east coast of Sri Lanka, especially the Trincomalee-Batticaloa belt, whose potential for tourism, commerce, trade, and industry is well known, will be in the interest of India. At an appropriate time, regular movement of people and goods should be allowed again on the traditional sea routes of Tuticorin, Colombo, and Rameswaram, Talemanar. The apprehension in the minds of sections of Sinhalese majority about India being a threat can be dispelled by encouraging greater people-to-people interaction, including pilgrimages by monks and other segments of Sri Lankan society to places of Buddhist importance, not only in North India, but also in the south, say Andhra Pradesh, Amaravati on the banks of Krishna River. My wish list can go on. I would like to end my speech with this point. Given the history of bilateral ties, instances such as the recent Hambantota controversy are bound to arise. But what should not be glossed over is that a politically and economically stable Sri Lanka will be in India's interest too. Thanks a lot for your attention and interest. Let me introduce speakers. First, Mr. Vivekananda Niranjan. Mr. Vivekananda Niranjan of Jaffna is an independent financial consultant serving various bodies in the northern province of Sri Lanka. At present, he is attached to the Jaffna Chamber of Commerce and the Jaffna Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Yalpadam. He is also the coordinator of Jaffna Managers Forum, which hosted in its existence of over 15 years, more than 300 seminars and workshops and various topics, all centered around the theme of rebuilding of the war-torn northern Sri Lanka. As far as Jaffna is concerned, he's a much sought after person, not only in the areas of trade, commerce, and industry, but also in the fields of social work and culture. Among his areas of interest is water conservation, judicious use of water, a subject which is extremely dear to me, as I come from a region of India which is perennially water deficit. Mr. Niranjan.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakrishnan. Good morning, everybody, and my friends, especially our respected Professor Tissavidarana. Also, thank you much for your introduction, Mr. Ramakrishnan. At the outset, I wish to thank the Press Institute of India for giving me the opportunity to express my views on reviving India-Sri Lanka ties, a holistic view of recent developments. We, the closest neighbors in this region, have always enjoyed a healthy relationship. The religious, cultural, linguistic, and especially the spiritual relationship have been very strong. All communities in the island rush to India to satisfy the spiritual needs of theirs. An aspect that should be emphasized is a greater desire among everyone to go on a pilgrimage to fulfill their vows. Apart from the student seek admissions in the prestigious Indian universities and technical colleges for higher education and further their qualification, and to learn classical music and oriental dances to their talents to go colleges of fine arts in India. And for medical purposes, they prefer to go to Chennai and India, part of Indian region. Moreover, they depend on India for the enhancement of the trade and commerce. Food, clothing, and electrical appliances and machinery are important to get more local small industries thriving. Indian films and TV programs are the major source of entertainments. Pilgrimage to the holy shrines is a dream of many if their passage is affordable. India, again, I want to mention also the Professor Tisarudana also said, India's timely assistance to the of $4 billion for urgent medical purposes and get over the fuel shortage and the essential food items from Tamil Nadu to the people of Sri Lanka are gestures of goodwill from India. Those who formulate the economic policy of Sri Lanka in future cannot and should not forget that our proximity to global economic giant like India is a source of economic for us. We are very close to the manufacturing sectors of India, and we must take advantage of this fact at the time of this crisis. It is high time Sri Lanka went to extra miles to create conducive environmental cooperation, grab the hands of the friendship extended by our neighbor country. Now let me comment on the recent development of the resumptions of the air service between Palali and Chennai and the ferry service to Kangesandurai and Karaikal. The decision to connect Sri Lanka and India throughout airport and seaport in the north will provide the best opportunity for the import and export at a competitive cost. The north will emerge a big commercial hub and the entire country will benefit as a cargo could be quickly and easily exchanged. We may need to struggle for dollars when we allow to do the transaction in Indian currency. In the long run, it will naturally benefit Sri Lanka and bring about a sea change in the trade and the commercial activities. Indian industries are well known for the surplus production and they become highly concentrated. There will be certainly be an osmotic flow into the space where the concentration is lesser. When business activities on the sides, both sides increases, the GDP will increases to the benefit of the both India and Sri Lanka. The suggestion offered by Indian High Commissioner at the occasion of the first flight landing after 2019 for the expansion of Palali International Airport is a welcome move, and we thankful to him for the great gesture. In the same, the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Harry Fernando, also expressed positively on the same occasion. And it is now the turn of the both government to take further action in this regard. As it has already been proved that there's an enormous scope for collaboration between India and Sri Lanka. For example, infrastructure development, railway, Palali Airport, and the Kangesungura Harbour. The government in India can be further help Sri Lanka. In the north of Sri Lanka, we can find heavy industries. However, no value-added products are available in the north for export. We have only limited number of small industries run by the small and medium entrepreneurs. If and when opportunity for export available, the small industries could be encouraged to turn out value-added products by importing suitable plant and machinery and raw materials from India. For more industrial activities, we can import light industrial plants from India, generate employment, and the marginalized family can earn some more extra rupees. We can engage jointly exchanging the post-harvest technology, tourism in India, and Sri Lanka can be boosted. Tour operators, hotel keepers, transport providers on both sides can step up their business. Visiting the holy shrines and places of historical importance on both sides are viable area for investment and for improving the attitudes of the people. In conclusion, I firmly believe the recent development of airlink, ferry and cargo shipping services will improve the volume of bulk cargo import from India, but the volume of export to India as well. In the entire region of Sri Lanka will definitely get benefited. Despite my many proposals, ferry services between India and Sri Lanka stopped in 1980s. Recommencement of ferry services will enable Indian travelers to reach Sri Lanka easily via the north. For further main road linkages between South India and Sri Lanka will enable many travelers to reach country via road, especially for tourism and trade purposes. In the case of education, universities in Sri Lanka have produced outstanding graduates. However, there is a need for more internationally accredited higher education institutions which offer world-class education, especially in the technology field. IIT network is one of the best technological education in the region. Regional integration, regional cooperation has the potential to produce significant gains across the countries of South Asia, and improvement in transport and logistics can reduce the 50% of higher cost for shipment of goods. Trade balances and export baskets. Sri Lankan export basket to India, which was dominated by agriculture products, such as cloves, pepper, areca nuts, dried fruits, nutmeg, etc. It has now become more diversified. It includes board, chips, wire and cables, glass and glassware. In 2013, largest Sri Lankan export to India was boats and ships. If we look at the import-export ratio between the two countries, we can clearly see the ratio has a decline. This shows that the Sri Lanka export to India has grown faster than India export to Sri Lanka. In the year 2005, it reached, the ratio was 3.2 into 1. It was earlier 10 into 1. So it is finally, I firmly believe, the recent development of airlink, ferry and cargo shipping services will improve the volume of bulk cargo import from India, but the volume of export to India as well. And the entire region, Sri Lanka will definitely get benefited. So we will look into the matter very positively. We will reviving the India-Sri Lanka ties, a holistic view of the recent development. This is my presentation. Thank you for my presentation to you.
Very many thanks, Mr. Niranjan, for your constructive ideas. I hope and trust some of them will get rectified. The next speaker is Mr. Santan Ayadure, who is 73-year-old and a civil engineer come creative writer. A bilingual writer who produces literary work in Tamil and English. Mr. Santan has published over 24 books, the recent being Sittan Saritam, Story of Sittan, which stresses the links across Park Strait. His English novels include The Whirlwind, published in 2010, and Rails Run Parallel, 2015, both of which have created a huge impact on me. Many of his works of short fiction have been published, to name a few: Sparks in 1990, in Their Own Worlds 2000, on the Northern Front in 2005. Like him, his writing style is deceptively simple, but careful and detailed in observation. Santan as a whole focused on the micro realities of life in the northern social fabric, often drawing on a range of issues from conflict, identity, personal dilemma, to shades of life in the peninsula that has been underrepresented in Lankan English writing, such as internal displacement and inner village dynamics. He has captured through his works the contemporary political, social, and economic life of Sri Lanka and its people. He has received several honors and awards, one of which is the Premchand Fellowship instituted by India Sahitya Academy. He is the fourth Sri Lankan to receive the honor. His Rails Run Parallel won the Fairway National Literary Award in 2015. Over to Mr. Santan.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakrishnan. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to all the respected participants. And I feel it's better to present a few points at the beginning, which I have jotted down, and later I will come out with my views if and when any need arises. As a writer, I want to speak of these cultural relations this time. It goes without saying that India and Sri Lanka are geographically very close and face similar geographical and environmental conditions. We, particularly those in the south of India and the north of Sri Lanka, have the same climatic conditions. And whether it's a natural phenomenon or a natural disaster, the same things happen here in Sri Lanka as in India. To put it simply, we in Jaffna always watch for the weather forecast from Chennai to know about the weather predictions here. So it's so true that when the tsunami hit the region, India and Sri Lanka were affected in the same manner, and even more so when there is air pollution. In an earlier interview, I mentioned about how improving and resuming air and sea travel between the north of Sri Lanka and the south of India could help improve trade, education, and travel. Now, as a writer, I would like to talk a little about the cultural relations. In that aspect also, the oneness is very clear. Cultural relations between our countries have continued for thousands of years. Both Sri Lanka's major faiths originated in and came from India and are still influenced by that country. When we talk about pilgrimage, Buddhists think of Buddha Gaya and Saranath and Kushinagar, and Hindus think of Rameshwaram and Kashi, among hundreds of other revered shrines in Tamil Nadu. A recent trend for the last few decades was the annual Sabarimala Yatra, which is on now. Christians and Muslims are no exception, with holy sites like Velanganni and Nagur. At this juncture, I also have to mention two important trends that existed in Jaffna until the 1950s and 60s. The Hindus of Jaffna, who were strong devotees of Chidambaram temple, dedicated their surplus lands or even a portion of the lands in the name of the temple in Tamil Nadu. Those without progeny also followed that example. Those lands were known as Chidambarattukani or Kovilkani. The other interesting thing is that until sea travel between the two countries was forbidden, people from some villages in the coastal region of the north of Sri Lanka used to take flowers and milk for the puja at temples in Tamil Nadu, such as Vedaranyam, every morning. So this was the custom. Likewise, when a new film is released in Tamil Nadu, the fans from certain coastal regions go there by boats, enjoy 2 or 3 shows in succession, and return. The influence of Tamil cinema in the north and the Hindi cinema in the south of Sri Lanka was much stronger. Whenever there is a new fashion or cultural trend in India, it immediately comes here. And this is especially true since the introduction of television and other modern media. The printed books, magazines, and newspapers from Tamil Nadu were equally influential. When I was young, every popular magazine printed in Chennai reached Jaffna the following day after being printed there. So again, we have to look at how that was possible at that time. The reason was that there were regular flights between Chennai, the then Madras, and Palali, as well as between Palali and Trichy. This enabled students from Jaffna to proceed with their higher studies in India, in Tamil Nadu, until the early 60s. I remember 3 of my cousins studying there. And if I remember correctly, the Madras Palali airfare was some 50 odd rupees in Sri Lankan currency, Ceylon currency at that time. And even before this, until the 1940s or 50s, the trend was for the male students from Jaffna to proceed to Calcutta in search of their higher education. Aside from these, we were fortunate to have teachers come from both Tamil Nadu and Kerala. When we return to books, all contemporary writers in Tamil and other Indian languages in translation reached us and enriched us at that time. And this is not a one-way journey anyway, as far as Tamil is concerned. Starting from Ilathupuran Thevanar of the Sangam era, the contributions from this side also continued. The Hindu priests and traditional musicians from Jaffna always liked to stay married to people from their own communities in Tamil Nadu. A lot of sculptors and craftspeople from Tamil Nadu are now helping to fix up temples in Jaffna and the north. This is in addition to the work that the government is doing to improve infrastructure. By remembering this history and most importantly, by looking into the pressing needs of the future, we need to understand how important it is to improve transportation links as a step toward more progress in our ties. Though politically we are in two different territories, in all other ways, we, the people of India and Sri Lanka, particularly those in Tamil Nadu and Jaffna, are one, especially in sentiments. In this light, the fisheries dispute and the new business and cultural ties should be looked at. Thank you.
Many thanks for your illuminating speech, Mr. Santan. The next speaker is Mr. N. Satyamurthy, who is a veteran journalist and a political and foreign policy analyst. He was the head of the Chennai initiative of the Observer Research Foundation, the multidisciplinary Indian public policy think tank headquartered in New Delhi since its establishment in December 2002. He writes about India, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and the shared Indian Ocean neighborhood, with particular reference to domestic politics, bilateral and trilateral relations, and interdependent dynamics. Mr. Satyamurthy?
Thank you, Ramakrishnan. Good morning, everybody. I just, what the other three have said, I would just mention one historic fact, that is the contemporary history. We also had the boat mail going from Chennai all the way up to Colombo with a boat ride connecting the to the Park Strait. Can it be revived? Of course, it will take time. It will take a lot more political will than what the Palali Airport and the revival of ferry service and the air service has meant. But one thing we have to wait and watch how much patronage these two services get from the people of Jaffna. Particularly the ferry service. We are talking about the ferry service. One good thing about the ferry service, it is cheaper. Much cheaper in Sri Lanka, for Sri Lanka during this forest crisis. And the forest crisis than the airfare. But still we have to do what is possible to encourage that ferry service. Because earlier, of course, it was the wrong choice of route. The ferry service between Tuticorin and Colombo in the post-war era collapsed within 6 months for want of patronage. That should not happen here. Because my previous speakers have talked about business and cultural relations. And again, we have to remember, much as our Sri Lankan friends say about cultural relations, that particularly Indians have to remember, whether it is about Buddhism or Hinduism or larger India-related cultural ties, that it should not be used as a soft power to pressure them or influence them. For them to accept as India as it comes, as it has been over the last so many centuries, as Mr. Sandan said, is one thing. But for us to keep poking and provoking them, saying Buddhism went from here, Hinduism went from here, Tamil went from here, Sinhala was born here, King Vijaya went from there. That's a very, very wrong approach and attitude. Indians have to refrain from that. And definitely there are people in Delhi who think we are a superior class. We cannot be a superior race because all of us belong to the same DNA group. Then, about what Mr. Niranjan said about trade, cooperation, etc. Despite all the good intentions and various possibilities as the Professor Tisamidarana would accept, Deepa fell through at the last minute after signing, initialing the MOU between the two countries. 10 days before it was to be signed between President Mahinda Rajapaksa and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in 2000, Sri Lanka withdrew from it. And successive governments, including present President Ranil Wickremesinghe's leadership as the Prime Minister between 2015 and 19, even changed the name from CPAR to ECTA, but again, no progress has been made. It is easy for us to sit here and say this can be done, that can be done. But why is it that the political class not doing it? The same applies to my focus area, politics. A lot of things can be said about this, that, and everything. But there are, for instance, now the Sri Lankan government and the Tamil parties are talking, negotiating, whatever it is. There are multiple factors there. We have to accept, understand. We can't gloss over it anymore. Because one, the possible solution, as I suggest for want of time, and I will consult all the fact, is to begin with the 13th Amendment. I am not saying it is this because it was offered by India or facilitated by India, but it is already on the statute book. Yes, 13th Amendment was never really implemented. Two, even whatever powers that were given to provinces by the in education, healthcare, transport, etc., have all been mulled over by successive Sri Lankan governments in the form of national school, national hospitals, etc., etc. All those things can be restored. But still, that is one way we can begin at the devolution of power devolution. Yes, negotiations can happen afterwards, but the way some of the Tamil parties are starting, saying remerger, federalism, that is samashti and all that, is not going to take anyone anywhere. If it is the 13th Amendment plus, I should say, I don't know how many of you even remember it, but certainly Professor Tisa Vitarana would remember his great monumental work, the Tisa Vitarana Committee report. The TNA, which was the most powerful of the moderate Tamil parties in the immediately after the war ended, ethnic war ended, did not even participate in the committee's proceedings. And the government of which and for which Professor Tisa Vidarana produced that report, rejected it even without reading it. From pointing to saying that we are waiting for the report, the then government of President Mahinda Rajapaksa went on to say it will be first vetted by our ruling party, as if it was a communist country. Before we will take it up, it did not happen. Go back and read it. It contains a very, very, very comprehensive and detailed account of how power can be devolved and the interest of every community can be protected. I'm saying that this not because Professor Vitarana is here, but because I have also been writing about this consistently in my columns. I'm not saying it is enough. That can be a beginning point. Earlier, Tamils, even when they went for talks with the Rajapaksa government in 2011-2012, they said there are already 5 reports, starting with Bangla Munasige Committee report, Chandriya Package 1 and 2, etc., etc. But today they are not talking about any precedent or any package that is already available to work on. They seem wanting a totally fresh negotiations that I'm afraid is not going to take them anywhere, take the solutions anywhere. Of course, President Vikram Singh has promised some good beginning with the 75th Independence National Day celebrations on February 4. He has been holding talks with the all party. He began with the all party discussion earlier this month, followed it up with the one-on-one discussion that is supposed to be with Tamil party. But only 2 TNA leaders, not even all the TNA parties were officially invited by the government. He told Mr. Sumantran, according to reports of the TNA, and because Sumantran invited them, other leaders did not attend. And yes, they were given less than 12 hours, 24 hours notice to be present in Colombo from wherever they were. That is not the way to go about it. But unfortunately, knowing President Vikram Singh as we know, he is not the one to err on propriety and priorities without knowing the consequences. So thereby hangs the tail. And all of you who have been following Sri Lanka, particularly Tamil politics, knows how divided the Tamils are. They are divided more today than immediately after the election. TNA, everyone wants a new leader, but no one wants the other person. It is a sad thing. And there are parties outside of TNA who want to enter, but yesterday the leading party, ITAC, has said the other three, what we can call the prodigal sons in Vigneswaran, Srigandas, Shivaji and even Suresh Premachandran, they won't be allowed to contest together as under the TNA brand or a new alliance brand in the local council election, local government elections. That is something like our municipal and panchayat elections across the country due sometime early next year. Which means the so-called Tamil unity that everyone was talking about until yesterday has been finished off with the local government elections. I won't say that the President Ranil is to be blamed for this. One, the singular parties won this election. Whether it is going to happen or not, I don't know. Again, there is a precedent. In 2013, I don't know how many of you even recall or remember, all Tamil parties, including the government party EPDP of Douglas Devananda, began talking among themselves. There was a couple of meetings of all Tamil parties in TNA's Martin State headquarters in Colombo a few times. Then the government announced the provincial council elections. TNA was not sure that they would want to accept EPDP because Suresh Premachandran won't have EPDP and other EPR factions and all that. That attempt collapsed. Today, if someone is going to do the same thing in the name of capturing the local governments in the north, it could be the TNA separately. In fact, about 15 days back, ITAC leaders said, that federal party leaders said, that they will contest alone and let the other two alliance partners, coalition partners, contest separately. In this context, in this background, there is going to be a lot of churning, which is not going to be beneficial to the Tamil now or ever. And we have to remember only one thing, Mr. Sambandhan, supposedly the unifying force until the other day, but because his health is failing and he is aging, people like Selvam Adakalanathan have openly started challenging him. Of course, I am detailing some of it because I don't know how many people in Colombo are following this. And this is not good. Again, the government operating through a single source of Sumandran, he's a good friend of mine, that's a different thing. He's not going to help the cause of peace and political solution. And no one knows, everyone says diaspora should be included. No one knows what role they are going to play or how are they going to help in the implementation of a political solution. Because let us accept people who know Tamil politics in Sri Lanka. Diaspora plays hide and seek. And they have got favorable favorites among the Tamil parties and leaders. So these are all issues that are going to complicate the solution and which is not good for the nation as a whole. We are somewhere along the line. My reading and understanding is that whether it is Western countries led by the US or the IMF that say that we will give extend this in loan or other facilities, seem to be laying a few preconditions. 2 days back, Prime Minister Ali Sabri conceded that the IMF wanted 21st Amendment passed, and he is in trouble for that. And if the political solution to the ethnic issue is also one of those unsaid or said conditions, that solution may not happen. And the more Tamil parties and more the singular rivals, political rivals of the president and his outside supporter in the Rajapaksas that is to say, Sajid Premadasa, his party and allies, into that feeling, they are also not going to allow anything closer to that. To that extent, anyone talking about things like federalism is only going to damage the cause and destroy the cause possibly forever. With that, I close. Thank you.
As expected, Mr. Satyamurthy, you have touched upon the complex political situation in Sri Lanka. I thank you for your thought-provoking speech. Now, the next speaker is Professor Tessa Vitarna. Born on 30th August 1934 in Nuvarelia, Professor Vitarna combines two different fields, medicine and politics. He did his MBBS degree in 1959 and MD in 1965, all from Colombo. He then went on to study in the UK, obtaining a diploma in bacteriology from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in 68 and PhD in virology from the University of London in 71. He was Deputy Director of the Victoria Infectious Diseases Reference Laboratory in Melbourne from 91 to 93. Following retirement in 94, Professor Vitarna served as Professor of Microbiology at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura from 1995 to 2000. As for his career in politics, Professor Vitarna, a known leftist, joined the Lanka Samasamaja Party, LSSP, in 1974. After his party joined the United People's Freedom Alliance in February 2004, in the subsequent general elections, he made it into the Sri Lankan Parliament through the National List. He was appointed Minister of Science and Technology. He was renominated to the Parliament through the National List after the 2010 elections. He was again made Minister of Technology and Research and held the post till 2015. After Gotabaya Rajapaksa became president in November 2019, Professor Vitarna served as governor of North Central Province for about 9 months. In August 2020, he was made a member of parliament through the National List. Last but not the least, let me say this, Professor Vitarna is not just a gentleman, but also a fine sportsman. He captained the university's cricket team in 1957-58, and prior to that, his school team too. Professor Vitarna.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramakrishnan, and all the participants who have come here together at a time when the people of Sri Lanka are suffering incredible hardships, to extend the hand of friendship, to enable us to come out of this tragic situation. So let me first thank all of you for your good intentions, and I hope that this will help us eventually to find a way out of extremely difficult economic, social, and political crisis. Now, Mr. Satyamurthy brought up the political aspects, which really have been a cause of tension within Sri Lanka, and even had an impact externally. Now, in this context, the people, especially in Tamil Nadu, in the south of India, think in terms of the problems that the Tamil-speaking people, especially in Jaffna and the north, I am concerned about the problems of the Tamil-speaking people right throughout the island. And let me at the outset say that I belong to the Lanka Samasamaja Party, which fought the British rulers continuously for independence. And it was the LSSP that was banned during the war period. Our leaders were put in jail. They escaped from jail, came to India and joined ultimately the Congress Socialist Party and participated in the independence struggle in India along with Gandhi and Nehru. So as a party, we have had very close ties with the people and the politicians in India. At the same time, I think all of you need to bear some concepts in your mind when you think of Sri Lanka and its people. The Sinhala people, the Tamil people, the Muslim people, the Burgher people, the Malays and others, all of whom restore a rich diversity in our culture, which are now being unfortunately used as a divisive force when it should really have been used as a force that would enrich our culture and bring our nation closer together, which our party has been trying to do throughout its history. To give you an example, India got independence in 1947, and Dr. Ambedkar, the author of the Indian Constitution, came out with it in 3 years' time. By 1950, India became a republic. But because of this very diversity that Sri Lanka has, though we got independence from British rule in 1948, it took us 24 years to sort out our problems and ultimately pass a Republican constitution which really gave us independence and made us a sovereign nation. That was done by one of the leaders of our party, Dr. Palvinardi Silva. So we have suffered tremendously at the time that Sinhala only was made an official language. We fought very strongly for Tamil also being made an official language. Bombs were thrown at our meetings. One was thrown at Dr. Kolbinardi Silva himself. And fortunately, Reggie Mendes, a trade union leader who was by his side, caught the bomb and was throwing it out when it exploded and blew out his hand as well. So I'm trying to give you an idea that we are committed to serve the best interests of all our people, not only the Tamil people, not only the Sinhala people, but all communities in our country. Now, to understand the mindset of the Sinhala people, India is a big country. The Tamil speaking people came from India in relatively recent times. The Sinhala speaking people also came from India in remote time. So we have to treat all these people as having originated from India as one people. At the same time, there were those inhabitants who were here, the Aborigines, the term that we use is Vatta, and they too have to get equal treatment like the rest of us. So this is a problem that has still not been sorted out properly. I have gone and as a doctor done surveys among with the population and know the hardships that they are facing. So I have in various ways tried to enhance their position in the country. And to give you an example, the local body elections that are due in a few months' time, when they were held earlier, we put a candidate from the Vedda population, from the Aboriginal population, and he won and went into the local body and was able to serve the Vedda people of that country. So please understand the complexity of our society, which is in a small country, and the various, shall we say, factors which have been, shall we say, misused to divide us rather than to unite us. But we as the Lanka Samasamaja Party, the LSSP, are committed to building a strong, united Sri Lanka. And I would appeal to all of you to remember, as one of our leaders, founder leaders, Comrade Leslie Gunawardena, stated the Sinhala people are a majority with a minority complex. The Sinhala people are a majority, but with a minority complex, because they see this people in Tamil Nadu, in Kerala, many of whom have migrated into Sri Lanka, who have been, shall we say, different communities have risen in our country as a result, and there have been problems relating to that as well. So in this context, when you now the first three speakers made considerable mention of the needs of the Tamil speaking and especially Tamil people of Jaffna. Please remember that in whatever you are doing, Sri Lanka has a separate identity. We are a separate country. We are a separate nation. And as such, you have to respect them. And remember that you must deal with the government of the country as a whole, with the people of the country as a whole. And whatever help you are extending must not be directed towards a particular section or a particular community. So I make this point at the outset because we have been through a very cruel 27-year war as a result of the wrong policies that were taken by the governments against the advice of our party. And we don't want to repeat that. And it is very important that we act in a responsible manner to see that our unity is strengthened within our country, just as much as our links with India are strengthened as one people, as one Sri Lankan people, not as any particular community. So I stress this point because we don't want to see another Black July. We don't want to see a repetition of what happened in 1983. And I must say, I was very disappointed when our present president at the meeting, I was present, where he called on party leaders to come to assist him in trying to solve the national question, where he now, Mr. Satyamurthy made mention of the 13th Amendment and the need to implement it as fully as possible. He knows very well the recommendations that the committee that I chaired, the APRC, we had 127 sittings over 3 years, and the TNA did not participate. The Tamil National Alliance did not participate. All the other parties participated, including the EPDP, EPRLF, and so on. So we have made maximum effort to work out a solution. But I was very disappointed that at the meeting that the president called recently, he made no mention at all of our APRC proposals. He did not even mention the LLRC proposals, which are subsequent proposals, which were also, in my view, good proposals. But he made a broad statement and then said that he will work out a solution and present it to us in about a month's time. And he was hoping to get our agreement for him to make a statement on Independence Day, which falls on the 4th of February. Just say 2 months away, not even 2 months, 1.5 months, one month away.
Yes.
So I am very worried about this type of approach. And I think I was present when I heard what the president said. I was wondering where he was heading. And I came prepared to say, give a brief summary of the APRC proposals as something that should be taken into consideration in trying to work out a solution. But I was worried at the whole approach, which was very slipshod. And I did not mention anything about the APRC, though everyone else in the country knows about it, the president, chief of them. So it is in this context that we have to face this severe economic crisis. Just to give you an example, I was director of the Medical Research Institute for 10, 11 years, and they keep in touch with me and they give me the reports of their surveys, and the have gone up to nearly 70% of the total population of our country. Just think about it. This means that the Sinhalese, Tamil, Muslims, all communities, the poor, not only the poor, the middle class, and I from the reports I had, not only the lower middle class, even the middle class are suffering. Many people, they have just, the parents have 1 meal a day to enable them to give 2 meals to their children. So this is the situation that we are facing. In addition, the MRI reports that close to 20% of the children under 5 years are malnourished. That means if you take 5 children, one of them is severely malnourished. Malnourished meaning not overnourished, undernourished. And that population is going to be our future generation. They are going to be thin, stunted, and worst of all, mentally deficient. And that is 1/5 of our future population. And then in addition, when the other 50% of families are living below the poverty line, they are also going to be affected to varying extents. So this is the magnitude of the problem that we are confronted with. So please, please think of the country as a whole, the people as a whole, as one people. And extend your support not just to the people who have come relatively recently from from India. Now let me tell you what our party has a state plantation union. The reports that I have got. There was a 5-year struggle to get an increase in salary from 700 rupees to 1,000 rupees. It was only recently accepted, and in the previous, not the recent budget, but the budget before that, this amount of extra money was going to be paid to every plantation worker. The whole huge majority of them are of recent Indian origin, as was stated earlier. Do you know what those plantations have been given on long lease, 30-year lease to private companies? And do you know what those private companies have done? They increased the quota of green leaf that had to be brought in each day, which was 18 kilograms to 24 kilograms. Now, the workers there cannot possibly fulfill that amount. And our union people have informed me that the best they can do is around 20 kilograms, maybe 21 kilograms. Now, the 3 kilograms that they are not providing, the owners are cutting their daily wage. And ultimately, they are back to square one. They are getting about 700 to 800 rupees per day. So this is the type of problem that our people are facing. And these complex problems are problems which we can solve and we want to solve. Our party is contesting at the forthcoming elections, but we are not we are a poor man's party. We are not getting the support of the rich in the country. Under those circumstances, we have to struggle on behalf of the people under very difficult circumstances. But we are doing that. And for instance, what has been done in Kerala with regard to the tea plantations, where the ownership has been given to the employees, and as a result of which the employees get a share of the profit, has had a tremendous psychological impact on the mental attitude of the plantation workers.
Focus.
And they are now, the productivity has gone up. The plantations which are claimed to be running at a loss in Kerala are now making a big profit. And we have proposed to the people of Sri Lanka that the same benefit be given to our plantation workers. So these are the complex problems that we are confronted with, and which we are trying to solve with great difficulty. We need to cooperate on an equal footing in our region. And I think we have to do this on the basis of respect, mutual respect. And please, whatever the close links that exist between those who speak the Tamil language, whether they be Tamil or Muslim, and the Tamil speaking people of Tamil Nadu, right? That is well and good. But the approach has to be one, not of just helping only one section of our community in Sri Lanka. It has to be one of helping Sri Lanka as a whole. At this moment, our economic crisis is largely due a debt crisis. Our foreign debt has risen to 52 billion US dollars. Last year, we had to pay close to 7 billion US dollars to service those debts. So there is an acute shortage of dollars. This is the factor which led to our not being able to buy the fuel, the oil, the gas, the medicines from abroad, even essential food items that our people needed. So you helped us out with $4 billion, and I'm very grateful to the people of India for having done that. But please remember that it is in the midst of this crisis that we have to work out a solution to our problems. And just to give you an example, nearly, I think it's about 47% of our foreign loans are international sovereign bonds, which are short-term loans, which carry a very high interest rate. And it is this pressure that we are facing. And it is in that context that we have to work out a solution to the terrible problems that our people are facing. So we have to get the maximum possible bilateral loans. We have to work out restructuring. We have to work out moratoria and take various emergency steps which has to be done at a governmental level. So that governmental action has to be forthcoming, especially from the bilateral donors, because the multilateral donors and the private sovereign bond holders are not amenable to this type of moratorium. So that is the biggest problem that we are facing. And in that context, we have to also tackle the other problems of inflation. We have a shrinking economy because of the value of the rupee is falling, and the government is not allowing it to be given its real value. which it has fallen to, and the net outcome is that many of the immigrant employees who were who are in the Middle East and in various parts of the world, the money that they used to be sending US dollars to our banks in Sri Lanka to reach their families is now being taken by people abroad, and their rich relatives here are giving rupees, so that actually no dollars are coming into our country. So the tourist income also has gone down. So there is this acute dollar shortage. So I was very happy that Palali Airport is open. The suggestions made earlier by earlier speakers that the sea routes also should be made open. But please request the tourists from India to come over here and have their holiday in this beautiful island, and enjoy that, because by doing that you will be bringing in foreign currency that we badly need to get requirements as I mentioned earlier. So it is this type of approach that we want. And finally, I would like to mention that foreign investments are vitally important. I have already made contact with the Indian company, which has agreed to help us, because we have an electricity crisis, because the fuel costs have gone up and the coal costs have gone up. And in that situation, the price of electricity is also soaring. In that, we have to, as a solution, turn to renewable energy, like solar energy, wind, and so on. So that I have been trying to negotiate with an Indian company to help us by providing solar energy. So that type of activity would be very helpful if it is taken up as a national policy both by India and by Sri Lanka. And if that can be stimulated, right? I don't know, I may have to go to India to meet this particular head of the company to finalize these things, but I shall try to do so. So let us create an environment which will help this type of activity both by the public sector in India as well as the private sector in India, vis-a-vis the same sectors in our country, if we are to get out of this severe crisis. I thank you all once again for your deep concern in what is happening in our island. And please, words alone won't do. What is needed is action. Thank you very much.
Extremely thankful, Professor, for your enlightening speech. You have covered the subject very comprehensively. Before I call upon Mr. Satyamurthy to respond, because I think one of the participants has made some observations, Professor Dr. Jnani Ganeshan, he contacted me last evening. So, Mr. Jnani Ganeshan, would you like to say something?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to say a few words in this Zoom conference. I'm really obliged to you,
You can introduce yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm calling, I'm currently in Toronto. The time is 1:57 a.m. So I am Gnani Gnaneshan, and so I am an academic as well as a scientist, and then my field is bioinformatics and closely related to our esteemed professor Tisa Vidarana's field, microbiology. So I have moved away from microbiology into microbiome, and we can have a chat about that with esteemed professor another day. So today, basically, I want to stress few points. So I had the opportunity to listen to you, the esteemed panel, for a few except the first 10 minutes. So since I am from diaspora, I was born and bred in Sri Lanka, the northernmost tip of Sri Lanka. That's Point Pitu, only 23 miles away from Indian coast. And so I was educated in. I did my degree in the Jaffna University when the ethnic issue was heating up in 1980s, and I have worked in particular universities and then worked in UK and lived there for 20 years, and last 10 years I'm in Canada. So I am also part of one of a few diaspora organizations, and so we had been vocal mainly in bringing the accountability issues to the international arena, and so we work on this on those lines. So a brief word about diaspora. We Tamil diaspora after 1983 Holocaust, we have moved out of Sri Lanka, and at different time intervals, and currently we are around 1 million strong, mainly concentrated in Canada and Europe, mainly in the UK and Europe, and some in Australia, right? So recently, I don't want to be taking too much time. Within few minutes, I want to give my submission. Recently, in the Geneva UNHR's resolution, the resolution basically have recognized the Tamil diaspora has a say in any future Sri Lankan dialogue or discussions towards a political solution. And the Article 7 of it is talking about that. And if anyone needs, I can send a copy of it. In addition, we Tamil diaspora feel strongly we have a right to return. We did not leave Sri Lanka willingly. We were given, we left Sri Lanka under duress, under hardships, to safeguard our lives or our property. We were forced to leave. So we have a right to return, and we need to be considered in any solution which may come out of negotiations or discussions between the Sri Lankan government and political parties and the Tamil-speaking people all over the country and in India, because India is already a partner in this dialogue, India and any other countries, Western countries, which may have a role or stake in this. So that's the number one point I want to make. Number two, since this is mainly talking about reviving India-Sri Lanka ties, I want to focus on that. India is our neighbor. We are very little bit away from that. If we shout too much shout loudly from Point Pitu, we can always hear, our southern neighbors can always hear us. And Professor Vitarana has mentioned about recent Tamil population, which has pained my mind. And the people in northern and eastern provinces, Tamil people, especially have been living there for many, many centuries, even not, if not for thousands of years. The history need to be looked at very carefully. And even the recent migrants, or so-called recent migrants, especially our Tamil plantation brothers, they have been there for more than 200, 250 years. So if they are not recent, like 6 years or 7 years, which the recent migrant terminology being used in the Western world, where someone has moved there from 5 or 6 years, they had been there for 250 years. So the terminology has pained my mind. And I hope Professor Vitarana will take care of it. The other point I want to make is India has been always our neighbor. They are always interested. Our security and their security are intertwined. Anything happening in Sri Lanka will affect India. So they have always had a serious interest in maintaining, making sure this country, Sri Lanka country, lives peacefully. And there's development, there's economic prosperity. They have already said that, and I truly believe they mean it. And they are the only neighbor who has come up with $4.3 billion when Sri Lanka was on their knees. So we had to look at that. And we all know there's a trust deficit between Sri Lanka and India, and Sri Lanka, Tamils and Sinhalese, that we all know. But a clear mindset has to be built to trust people. So based on that, since there's peace and tranquility is needed in the country, India has been insisting, and rightly so, Tamil issue has to be resolved. And that need to be happened. And also, India wants the economic conditions of the country to improve. And for that to happen, connectivity has to happen. Sri Lanka as an island cannot survive for long. And we can easily look at, I don't have to go through it. If I have half an hour, I will go through it. How India has progressed, a multi-ethnic country, how they have progressed. And Sri Lanka with 2 or 3 ethnicities, they could not go. They have gone down in the human indexes. And they are on their knees, and they are spent $200 billion on this war. And if they have managed the ethnic relationships from the time of independence, Sri Lanka would not be in this situation at all. That we all know that. So going forward, we have to look at connectivity with India. We have to look at economic relationship with India. That has to happen with an open mind. And there cannot be a selectivity or islanders mentality of saying, whenever we need India has to help us, and then forget about that. Cannot happen. So there has to be a clear mindset to understand India and play with India. The other point I want to make on Tamil point of view, I can go on with another half an hour. No, I want to stop within a minute. So as a diaspora person, I will say, if there's a dialogue or peace in negotiations has to happen, many things has to happen parallelly, not one after another. One is immediate needs of the Tamil people has to be taken care of. We all understand after independence, Tamil has been neglected. That's nobody can deny that. After the 30 years of war brought the Tamil economy down. After the war also, they were neglected. So rehabilitation, redevelopment has to happen. There's no second word about that. To do that, we need an interim setup. We can wait for all these nice constitutional amendments to be made, but people need food. People need life. So to that to happen, even to bring the downtrodden northern and eastern provinces to a level playing field, equal to Gampaha, equal to Kandy, equal to Goa, they need to have an immediate package. And that package need to happen within northern eastern. So to do that, one immediate thing which can happen is a full implementation of Sri Lankan Indo-Lanka Accord. Not only the Third Amendment, the full implementation of Indo-Lanka Accord has to happen. And from there, we can talk about the long-term solutions along the federal lines. But to do that, we have some immediate requirements. The land grab has to stop. The prisoners has to be released. Then we need an understanding on the accountability. And immediately, we need a full implementation and we need a full interim package, and then long-term solution negotiations can happen. I can talk no longer, but I will stop at this point. Thank you very much. Really
Thank you, Gnani. Mr. Satyamurthy?
Yes.
There is some observation. You want to respond? There is some observation has been made in the chat mode. Did you notice that? Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a message from your side that you want to respond. That's why I'm calling you.
No, I'm trying to look at it. Yeah. The question is on Mr. Muralidharan. The question is, even as the Indian side should not harp on the influence of Indian culture on Sri Lanka, is it fair on our part to advise them on how they should be solving their political problems, especially in such a forum? We are not talking about, Mr. Muralidharan, I do not know how much exposure you have to this webinar and seminars. These are just not talking shops. When you invite someone like Mr. Tisa Vidarana with long years in politics and public life in Sri Lanka, right? And all of us here have got our own commitment and experience and exposure to Sri Lankan situation. As you know, two speakers and Mr. Dr. Gnani Ganesan are all Sri Lankans themselves, right? We are expected to give our opinions, whether it is webinar or things like that. And don't think we stop here. Each one of us have got our own links to policy makers everywhere. Right? This is one more, what we will say, a forum, platform where we share our views. See, for instance, the other two Tamils, I haven't met them until today. Dr. Gnani Ganesan, I know about him, but this is the first time I'm hearing him. Maybe we will establish contacts, right? These forums are meant for that. And two, actually we didn't, not one of us gave any advice to anybody, particularly with the two of us Indians. We are careful not to advise, we are only making observations. And one thing early on I learned in my career as a policy analyst, governance policy makers have 10,000 sources. Mine, if I am one, or mine, if it is one, is only one of the 10,000 or 20,000. But there is no harm in giving your view, right? That is how it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Santan, you want
yes,
to,
Mr.
you want to
Ramakrishnan.
make, yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Yes,
Am I
please.
audible? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes, you go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, in fact, I got a small question for Professor. And indeed, Dr. Gnaneshan has touched one of those points. That's regarding those recent migrants. As far as the Sri Lankan history, don't have any recorded things apart from Mahavamsa. We can't go into these various theories. If you ask Mr. C.V. Vigneswaran, he will say that Tamils were the original inhabitants of Sri Lanka. There are things like that, theories like that. And as the professor said, they were the Aborigines. They were known as the Nagas and Yakas. The people claim that Nagas, the Tamils are the descendants of Nagas. From prehistoric times, the Tamils are living, some people say. I am not going for that, but there are various theories. So as far as the theories are like that, we can't go into definite conclusions. And we all are migrants, whatever it may be. Oh, I don't know whether we were original inhabitants. At one stage, geographically, Sri Lanka and India would have been together. So leave that. We shouldn't go into those unestablished facts. That is my request. And another thing, with my due respects and regards to Professor, I would like to pose this question to him. This is now, sir, you are requesting us not to think in terms of North and as Tamils, but to think as the Sri Lankans. Yes, we are happy. We are still thinking we are Sri Lankans, and we are still willing to uphold the identity of Sri Lanka. So, no, but I just want to ask you whether the previous governments, all these days, they were maintaining this policy. Were they treating all the citizens alike? Were they thinking the Sri Lanka as a whole? So the Tamils were crying for a long time that they were treated in a stepmotherly way. So that was the cause for all these things. If that would have been like that, all this, how was Sri Lanka at the time of gaining independence? Where were we? And what happened now? What was the cause for this? Who did all these things? And what happened? And I must say, sir, I was a fellow. I am almost a contemporary of yours, and the LSSP remained our heroes during our school days. In Jaffna, you must remember Comrade Karala Singham, Comrade Nagalingam, Comrade Annamale, and all those people were here. They were our heroes. We were supporting LSSP. At one stage, Dr. Colvinadi Silva said, one language, two nations, two languages, one nation. And after that, what happened in the Republic, the Constitution? So what were the outcomes? So who sowed the seeds? So not that I am blaming anybody. Now, we are not, even now, we are not considering ourselves as a separate entity or separate people. We are still Sri Lankans. I identify with you more than anybody else.
Mr. Santhan, what is your question? Can you?
Actually, so I am asking this. Were these previous governments were
Right.
treating the same way? The professor
Okay.
telling us.
Okay, Professor,
I-
can you
I-
respond?
Yes,
Right.
I would respond in this way. We ourselves, as LSSP, had 19 members in Parliament in 1970, and we, because of our consistent stand on behalf of the Tamil language being used as the official language along with Sinhala on equal terms, we said parity. We were attacked by the racists. I'm sorry to say, the Sinhala race is on one side, and the Tamil racists are also attacked us. There were extremists on both sides. So we have been consistently maintaining our position, and I'm appealing to you, if living here and having gone through that experience ourselves, our meetings were broken, we were attacked physically as well as in various other ways, but we have stood by the Tamil people, Tamil speaking people. And now, just to give you an example, recently over the COVID-19 crisis, when the people were insisting that the Muslim people who died of the disease should be cremated. I said, no. I said, there is no possibility of getting the infection, or a respiratory infection, through water seeping out from the grave. And I took a strong stand on that issue on behalf of the Muslim people who believe in the Islam religion. So, as far I can answer for myself, I can't answer for these other governments and what they have done, right? And we have suffered as much as you have suffered, fighting for the rights of the workers. It was our party that in 1935, when it was formed, fought for free education, free health, 8-hour working day, overtime payments, which benefited all employees, whatever religion or whatever race they were. So we have acted in the national interest. So what I am only asking all of you, right, to think like we have been doing all this time and suffering just as much as you have done. So at this particular point, let us not get, shall we say, embroiled in unnecessary contentious issues about past history. We are concerned about the people who are living in this island at this moment, whatever community they belong to. And we want to treat them equally. And when India comes to help us, they must think also on those terms, in terms of the entire Sri Lankan people. As I mentioned earlier, just as much as the Tamil people are going hungry, the Sinhala people are going hungry. The Muslim people are going hungry. The Malays are going hungry. So let us think of it in a collective way. And the references I made were in historical terms about recent and past, not in short term and no fool. I am not such a fool, right? So please, if you are interested in seriously helping Sri Lanka out, please respect our national identity. please respect the fact that we are a separate nation and that from India, and help us on an equal footing, right, in whatever way you can on grounds of humanity. And that is the appeal I make to you. And please, please don't concentrate on one community alone.
Thank you, Professor. Mr. Satyamurthy?
Can I add one sentence? Ramesh?
Well, you said that have an one-liner or something like that.
That is it. I'm just want to say one line. Okay. To what my previous two speakers mentioned, Professor Savidarana and Mr. Sandan, you should recall in Tamil Nadu government, the present Tamil Nadu government sent assistance to Sri Lanka on the request of the Manav Ganesan, upcountry Tamil MP and political leader, on whether it was meant for Tamils only. The Tamil Nadu government also mentioned it is for all Sri Lankans. You will recall that all this aid went to the Indian High Commission and they equitably distributed it among all people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I mentioned in my speech also it was meant for regardless of ethnicity. Any other any observation from any of the participants? Okay, right. If there are no more observations to make, I think we can wind up this event. I think we had nearly for about more than 1.5 hours. We had a very, very fruitful and engaging and absorbing discussion. I thank every one of you, Professor Tisavatana, then Mr. Satyamurthy, Mr. Niranjan, Mr. Santan, and of course, Jnani Ganeshan from Toronto, Vipul from Gulf. So, and other friends, Mr. Somasundaram and others, Mr. Muralidharan Nair. So, all of you, I thank you very much and looking forward to meeting you once again.
Thank you.